Lion stuff. I don't know if you guys caught it. James Houston was on Ermanni and Edwards with Maz last week. We haven't had a chance to touch on this, but had a lot of interesting things to say. And the one that really jumped out at me, Sam Flannel, and I dig it. Like, I'm here for it. James Houston said he wants to, quote, double his sack total.
Whew.
This is a guy that got a sack a game.
Over a sack a game, if you want to be technical.
You want to get technical about
it.
A sack a game. So he's double my sack total. He's talking about 18, 20 sacks. And Flannel, look, this defense, much maligned through the first half of the year. I would say that defense kept them out of the playoffs last year.
Yes.
Because the season is 17 games. I know the second half defense was better than the first half, but they still do count those first half games that they play. If James Houston doubles his sack total, they will win this division going away.
If James Houston doubles his sack total.
His words, too.
Those are his words. We might be looking at the Detroit Lions as fighting for the 1 seed in the NFC. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but we're talking about James Houston, a guy who was a 6th-round pick, getting a chance to finally play a full season. If he actually has 16 sacks, do you know how valuable that would be to this defense? I mean, I don't necessarily see it happening, but in last year, let's just look at last year. In 7 games, he had 8 sacks. In those 7 games, the Lions were 5-2, and their defense was much improved. And I also like you said, the confidence that he has. I was actually on the show in the sound booth when he was doing that interview, and afterwards they kind of asked for my reaction. I think it was Maz and Braylon, and that's what I said. I love the confidence because he has the right to be that confident. 8 sacks in 7 games. He's probably thinking to himself, what if I do get to play a full season? I get a full off season. I'm not starting the season on the practice squad. Maybe I can get 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And do I see that as a bit of a reach? Maybe, but he should feel that. And if he actually gets that, I think it would help out Aiden Hutchinson. I think it would do wonders for that secondary because even when he's not sacking the quarterback, he's probably putting pressure on the quarterback. I love it. I hope that he can get to this. At the very least, though, he has become one of the most valuable value picks of the past couple of years, no doubt about it.
What about this? And just to put it into perspective, Todd Sane says 8 sacks in 140 snaps.
That's got to be a record. And the thing is, I know that 7 games is not a huge sample size, but it's not nothing. He was, I believe, on pace for over 19. If he to play his numbers out over a full season, he would have led the NFL in sacks. I know it's not easy to do that, but in 7 games, he was second amongst all rookies in sacks. In 7 games, he had more sacks than Kayvon Thibodeau and Trayvon Walker combined. I almost feel like, and I know that Lions fans, we really appreciate James Houston and what he did. I feel like his season almost has gotten underrated for how great and how historic it was.
Careful
on a
now.
per game.
He'll be the next Jimmy Butler if you keep going on like that.
Hey, to where he can basically have 2011 LeBron numbers and be have them 1-1.
So underrated, he's overrated. Isn't that what you said last week?
I did say that. I really did say that. But no, I get what you're saying. But do you feel that way at all too? Where I don't even know if we as Lions fans fully grasp how historic he was, even if it was just 7 games.
It's one of those things too, Flannel, where when I look at him, he looks the part because the athleticism. When you see the slow-mo of him getting to the quarterback, the new catchphrase when you talk about guys that sack quarterbacks or put pressure on quarterbacks, side bend.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone talks about their bend and their side bend and things like that. He almost twists his frame to go vertical to the ground, horizontal to the ground. Like the way it almost looks like a pitcher's elbow when he's throwing. Like it doesn't look natural.
No.
What he's able to do. I mean, he's got it. Like he's got that gift. And I don't know. I start thinking about it and I wonder, how did he slip through the cracks to be a 6th-round pick, provided he was at Florida State at one time.
Florida,
excuse me. He was at Florida at one time, and I know things didn't work out, but even then, going to Jackson State and being there when Deion Sanders was there, like how does he, with those kinds of physical attributes, slip through the cracks? I can't even, but again, he was in camp and got quote-unquote soft released, right? So, I mean, I can't explain it.
Those are the questions that only the man upstairs can answer, because I have no idea as well. I could maybe think maybe his size, and I know that James Houston, there's concerns about him being an every down edge linebacker or edge rusher, but when you get to the quarterback at such a clip that James Houston has, especially with all of those moves and the speed, you're going to be a valuable player in this league. I mean, and I think his ceiling is to be a perennial Pro Bowler. I'd like to see him get more consistent snaps, but even if he is just the best pass rush specialist in the NFL, it would help this defense out wonders. If James Houston actually gets doubles his sack total,
then you know what?
Yeah.
If you redrafted the draft, he would go number 1 overall. If you redrafted that draft, if he doubles his sack total this year and gets in the high teens, if you redrafted it, Flannel, because what are sacks now?
Turnovers.
Sacks are they're the new turnover in the NFL. They are the most valued commodity that you can have defensively. And I know Michigan fan is like breaking their fingers right now to get to the keyboard, because ultimately he always devolves into this. You're going to say, well, Aiden. If you have a guy that can go out there and put up Strahan sack numbers, you're the most valuable guy in a draft. You just are.
Absolutely. And when you said that at first, I
wanted to fight.
I don't know if I wanted to fight. I just had to ponder it for a second. But if we're talking about 8 sacks his rookie season and then 16 plus his second year, my first thought was, would he go above Sauce Gardner? Absolutely he would, because sacking the quarterback, that is the Lions' pathway to maybe having that defense that we all dream about. That's everybody's pathway. I mean, look at the Eagles last year. One of the reasons that their defense was so good is because they had 4 players get over 10, and Hassan Reddick got 16. It's ideal to have that one guy who can just get to the quarterback pretty much at will, which is what James Houston did. By the numbers, 8 sacks and 140 snaps. I can't verify that that's a record, but I would pretty sure I'd go out on a limb and say that it is. Unbelievable.
No, it is. And you look at him too, and I know that this number will go up next year. I know he's a restricted free agent. There are some hoops he has to jump through. Yeah. He's not like a total free agent going into next year. There's some kind of restrictions on it, but $970,000
for that value. I mean, that's unbelievable. And regardless of the snaps he plays, and I think you'll agree with this, regardless if he's more of a pass rush specialist, which I don't think you can get 16 sacks just doing that, he's one of the best he's borderline all-pro. If you get 16 sacks, no matter the circumstances, no matter if you're a second-year player, that's all-pro-like numbers. Those are the type of numbers that Reggie White would put up, or Bruce Smith, or Micah Parsons, or somebody like that, Nick Bosa. Those are those kind of numbers. And I don't think he'll actually get it, for the record. I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but the fact that he thinks that he can, he should. He probably felt like he dominated the league, which he did in 7 games.
No, and again, it's just when you see the talent, you know it.
Yeah.
You know it when you see it. Kevon Thompson says, if we're being real, James Houston, the problem is better than Aiden, and then threw his arms up with the emoji. But you talk about high teens and sacks.
Yeah.
It speaks for itself, man.
But Aiden Hutchinson, would it really shock you if he got high teens in sacks? I'm not calling for it, by the way, but it's not an Aiden versus James Houston thing.
No, it's not.
If they can combine and I know I'm speaking way in hypotheticals, could you foresee a season in the not-so-distant future where they combine for 30? Imagine what wonders that would do for this defense. By then, we could be talking about top 10, maybe if it's a couple more years, top 5. You just want them both to pan out. But with Aiden Hutchinson, he was the number 2 overall pick. With James Houston, he was drafted as an afterthought. But if they both pan out, it's a win for the Lions. So I don't want this to be a him or him. It can be both. It was both last year. They were 1-2 amongst rookies in sacks. That's unbelievable.
And I wanted to get the verbiage right on this. Next year, he would be considered an exclusive rights free agent. And it's pretty easy for the Lions to keep him. All they have to do is extend a qualifying offer. He'll be unable to negotiate with other teams. A qualifying offer is a 1-year contract at the league minimum salary based on the player's experience level. Okay. So essentially, it is another year of a rookie contract. That's everybody fair. Just calm down a little.
Yeah, and let me get to this thing that Matt Broder, our very own Matt Broder, put in the chat. I believe Aiden will finish in the top 5 of Defensive Player of the Year this season. Now you're speaking my language. I don't even know if I would go that far, but he's an actual Michigan alum who once struck out George Springer. So I'm going to take his word for it. It's another one. If Aiden Hutchinson is top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year, the Lions are probably winning 12 or 13 games. Their defense might be top 10, top 15. So that would be great. I think, though, that Aiden Hutchinson does have the talent to be top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year someday. I'm not saying this year, but that is certainly, I think his ceiling is to be a Defensive Player of the Year one day, the Defensive Player of the Year.
How about this, too? And somebody brought this up in the WoodwardSports.com chat thread. Todd saying, again, what a draft for Brad Holmes, even if it was just those two guys. And when you look at it, too, tack on their Kirby Joseph, by the way, tack on their Jamison Williams. We'll see what Josh Pascal happens. James Mitchell's been a contributor. You see what I'm saying? Malcolm Rodriguez,
Yes.
probably going to be a 100-tackle guy, right, in that neighborhood. We'll see how the playing time shakes out. Again, it's like I said, we did the show earlier, where if we look back, if the Lions do the unthinkable in the next 2 to 3 years, that draft will be one of the all-time great drafts in NFL history.
Especially if Jamison Williams becomes that star that we all think that he can be. I mean, you already got Malcolm Rodriguez, Kirby Joseph, Aiden Hutchinson, and James Houston. That's not even factoring in Jamison Williams, who we expect to produce at a high level this year when he gets back from suspension. And Josh Pascal might be something. You're right. It's already, even without Jamison Williams' contributions or Josh Pascal, a phenomenal draft. But I think they're both going to do good things for the Lions. Jamison Williams potentially great things. All-time great draft.